Because this is such a dangerous power to be able to destroy users, before adding the code necessary to do that, we're going to create a new class of user called an administrative user, or admin for short. To get a sense of where we're going, let's take a look at a mockup. This is the mockup of the current user's index. So what we're going to do is add delete links that will be visible only to admins. And when an admin clicks on delete link, it'll destroy the user. To get started with admins, let's take a look at the data model. In the last lesson, we added the remember digest attribute. Now we're going to add an admin, and it's going to be a Boolean. As we'll see, this will give us a special Boolean method to determine whether or not a user is an admin. So let's make a migration corresponding to that data model. So add admin to users, and then admin Boolean. This is the type here. Let's take a look at that. Because we used two users in the migration, it knew to put it on the users table, and then admin : Boolean gave us this. We saw that before with the remember digest most recently. There's one change I want to make here, which is to give this a default value. By default, users should be non-admins, so the default will be false. We don't actually have to do this, strictly speaking, because the default, so to speak, is nil, which is false in a Boolean context. But especially with something potentially so sensitive, I feel like it's best to be explicit. Save that, and let's run the migration. Bundle exec. We can see the effects of that in the console. Should probably quit out of this because we changed the data model. Let's pull out the first user. We can see that it's not an admin. So here we've got admin false. User.admin ? Is false. We can toggle this. Toggle bang, and then give it the attribute. Toggle bang is a method to toggle booleans. Oh, why didn't that work? Nope, I typed an attribute. I said attribute and then typed it. I want the attribute to be admin. There we go. Now user.admin ? Is true. It's probably best to do this sort of experimentation in a sandbox in general, but in this case it doesn't really matter because we're about to reset all of the development users anyway. Speaking of which, let's close this down here, this server, and then I want to go to the seeds and make the first user an admin. This server is just hanging, so I'm going to kill it. There it is, so let's kill that thing. That might not have been necessary. It looks like it might just have exited. But in any case, oh, I don't actually want to do that though. Okay, now I want to add an admin. Here we go. Admin true. And now here I'm going to do the reset and the seed. Now our first user should be an admin. Restart the console. Great. We're now in a position to understand why it's so important to use strong parameters here in the user's controller. Recall that that's the name for this sort of thing, this params.require and permit. If we look at the list of permitted attributes, notice that admin is not on the list. But suppose it were. Suppose we had admin here. Now if someone issued a patch request to, say, /users/17, so suppose we had a command like this, patch. You could define this using something like curl. If you were to issue a patch request directly to this URL, this would actually set the admin flag to true for this user. So any user with an account on the site would be able to change any other user, in particular, change their own user, into an admin. So of course I don't actually want this, but this is the first step toward writing a test that the admin attribute is not one of these permitted attributes, and that's left as an exercise.